Welcome into Cleveland Browns Daily. Here's Coach Stefanski at the podium.
In their first game, I thought they played lights out. So, big challenge, really good football players on their roster, really good coaches, and it's a tough place to play. So, we're going to have to be about our business. With that, I'll take any questions.
When did Greg get hurt exactly? You know?
I don't know specifically. Not sure.
Will Greedy just step into that starting spot?
Mm-hmm.
And what have you seen out of Greedy in the limited reps that he's had?
Well, he's had limited reps in the games, but seeing him a lot at practice, and I think he's done a nice job. You know, going all the way back, Scott, to when he first got back out there and worked through it and got his wind back. I think you just see a guy who's continuing to get better.
Kevin, you coached him, obviously. What stands out to you about Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, great football player, has played a lot of football, has seen it all, so he processes really, really quickly, accurate, tough competitor, very smart.
Everybody's talking about the homecoming. What do you think about Brady going back to New England?
Huh.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Not very good, Tom. Nice try.
You want to follow that up?
Yeah, what are there's got to be some emotions for you, though, Kevin, going back to a place where it began, where your kids were born, etc.
Yeah, I would tell you, Tom, it's obviously a special place. Had great time there, treated great by the organization, from the ownership to the coaches, staff. So really have good friends there. That being said, it's a really big game, and they're a good team, so that has our full attention.
Who are your kids rooting for?
The Brownies.
Is that like take some arm twisting?
No.
Are you and Coach Callahan content with playing Wills through this, or does his film show that maybe he needs a break?
Yeah, I think I'm comfortable with what we're doing, Tony. The kid is working really, really hard. He's staying into it, and even if he's not practicing today, he's staying into it. And I think he's just he's dealing with an injury, which is really the nature of the National Football League oftentimes for a bunch of different players. So I think he's doing a nice job.
Kevin, back to Minnesota. You were fortunate to be able to spend a lot of time in one place, which, as you know, coaches, that's kind of rare. When you look back on it, what are some ways that place, that environment molded you, as a young coach to where you are today?
Yeah, you're right, Jake. I was fortunate to be able to be there for a long time and saw a bunch of different coaches come through, some really good coaches and varying philosophies. I'd tell you that was probably the best thing for me to learn under different systems, helped me grow as a coach.
Does that give you the ability to pick and choose what you think fits what you would want to do when you got your opportunity?
I think that's ultimately what all coaches do. We kind of sit back when we're the low man on the totem pole and be very quiet and take notes and then ultimately you just try to be a sponge and learn as much as you can in those moments.
Kevin, what were your duties in that first year for you? Everything?
Anything and everything. Yeah, you name it. I think we have. I think in a football operation, and it's true here for sure. We have a lot of people that do a lot of different jobs, and you don't get much credit for it. And those jobs are as important to any job when you're talking about winning on Sunday. So, that's where I would tell you. I'm no different than a lot of people in terms of when you get that start. You start at the bottom, and you just got to work really hard.
How does the attention you have to pay to Dalvin Cook open up the passing game for the Vikings?
Yeah, he's a great player. He can do everything. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He can run every single type of run there is. He has a home run threat. The first guy very rarely gets him down. So the work is definitely cut out for us. He's a great player.
Was the Metrodome a tougher place for a visiting team?
They're both very loud. We talked about it already this morning with the team. It's a glass building, and the noise reverberates in there. It'll be the loudest, likely the loudest place that we play this year.
You think it's as loud as the Metrodome?
Yeah, I do.
So much bigger.
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
One thing Dalvin said today was that he really appreciated you because you let the guys be themselves. Where did you get that mentality from? Whether it was Minnesota or before, how did that kind of come about?
Just the way we do it, Dalvin in particular. There's a bunch of great players there, and they're really solid people, and Dalvin's as good as they get.
Kevin, what are the challenges and/or benefits of playing a team that you're so familiar with?
Yeah, I think, they know our scheme. I've been around, obviously, Coach Zim and his defensive scheme, but they're evolving, and I think you could probably say the same of us. So it's a really, really sound scheme on both sides of the ball. They do a great job. Coach Zim is as good as they get, so we got our work cut out for us.
Do you feel like you have to come up with something new because they know what you do, and vice versa for them?
I don't think so. They have really good football players. I know they have really good coaches. So the challenge is just in that we got to put together a game plan that our guys can understand and go execute and not think too much.
I didn't study the depth chart like I probably should have. How many that are?
Don't tell on yourself, Jeff.
How many of the guys are still there from when you were?
Yeah, they have a lot of new players, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. They bring in Michael Pierce to get him after he opted out from COVID. Dalvin Tomlinson up front. In the back end, Patrick Peterson, Brashawn Breeland, Woods. So there's a bunch of new faces, certainly on the defensive side of the ball. Having said that, they have some stalwarts that are great football players, whether Harrison Smith, Eric Kendricks, Daniil Hunter. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I think they got really, really explosive playmakers. So a lot of guys have been around, but just making the point that they have good players throughout their roster.
What do you remember about that game in London against the Browns? Anything? Or the experience?
Yeah, remember the team I was coaching on won. But loved the London experience. I think we were slated to go there last year had not that global pandemic.
Kevin, we talk so much about culture and what you brought here. How much of that did you kind of take from Mike Zimmer and sort of how he does things?
Yeah, a ton. Coach Zim, just the way he runs his operation is very similar to the way we do things here. Coach Zim is very, very transparent, very blunt with the players. With the players and coaches, you know where you stand. He's honest. He's was certainly helpful to me as a young coach. I owe him a great debt of gratitude for how he, number one, retained me on the staff when he came in, and then moved me throughout the offensive staff, made me his coordinator. So he's somebody that was very instrumental in my development.
Kevin, any new words from him?
There was one in particular. Yeah.
Kevin, I know you talked about Gary Kubiak before and his influence, but I was wondering, there was a possibility of you here in 19 and ended up being in 20. Do you think it just worked out the way it was supposed to? I mean, given that you got another year of experience, play calling, and then the Kubiak factor? Yeah, I firmly believe that things work out the way they should, and just I would speak to my whole time there. Nate was very impactful. It's a really well-run organization from top to bottom.
When you look at their offense, there's not much of a tight end presence, which is a little different than when you were there.
Mm-hmm.
How does that affect your defensive preparation?
Yeah, I think that they've just had some injuries with Irv Smith out. But it's a really good scheme. I think Clint's doing an outstanding job. I thought he was really, really good this last game. I got to do some TV watching of it, and I thought he was dialing it up. And they're versatile. They may not have, the tight ends like you mentioned that maybe in previous years, but they still have tight ends that they can throw out there. Tyler Conklin being a really good player, so they can get into different personnel groupings, and they just have a very balanced attack.
What's your relationship like with Clint, and do you feel like you guys kind of see the game the same way?
Yeah, Clint's a very, very close friend of mine. Obviously this week nobody's talking to anybody, but I think he's doing a really nice job.
Coach Zimmer said that you and Gary hit it off well. Did you have very similar personalities, or you guys kind of cut from the same cloth?
Yeah, Gary and I are very similar. I don't think Gary's talking to me either this week. But yeah, great year. I didn't, wasn't even a calendar year that I got to spend with Gary, but was incredibly impactful to me as a coach and as a person.
You expect to get some grief from Sheldon?
Yeah, I would expect some. Yeah.
Do you expect Dalvin Cook to play?
We're expecting it, yes.
Like, Kevin, will you get to do anything, like get to see people that you, like friends from Minnesota, go out to take everybody out to dinner or something?
No, business trip, Scott.
Good.
Okay.
Any restaurant recommendations for Tony?
I'll hit you offline. Thank you.
You guys are up. As if it would be any answer other than that. Yeah, a guy who has no time for really anything in the season other than game planning, calling offensive football, and coaching a football team. He's not going on a field trip.
No, he's going there to go 1-0 this week.
That's it.
This is the most important game of the season.
That's the list.
Because it's the next one. And he's going to win. He's not worried about reconnecting, reconvening, rekindling old friendships.
And I get it.
He's there to win.
From their perspective, because it's a cool story. I mean, this is the biggest homecoming this week in the National Football League, by far, of a prodigal son returning home as a Super Bowl contender. I mean, this is the story of the week in the NFL. So I get why you want a little emotion, but it's not how he's wired.
No.
And he's not going to – of course it's emotional for him going back there, for sure. He spent a lot of his life there.
It adds
right?
a little juice to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. But he is not interested in that now. That conversation, and we found this out last year, and the thing that's crazy about Coach is we really have not had a traditional, or what we used to know as a traditional relationship with him. I'm talking about you and I, because last year, we get to know him pre-COVID at the Combine. COVID hits. We're never in the same room with him from that point on until the draft, this year's draft, when we did the thing in the Fieldhouse. I know you have been a couple of times, but I hadn't been since then. And now we're back in those tiers, so you don't get to see him like you used to. But there was the one thing that I can tell you is there's a pretty big difference between him off season and in.
Yeah.
Significant.
He'll reflect on that after the season, especially if we go back and win. Then after the season, he'll say, you know what, that was pretty cool. In the moment, he's focused, and as soon as this game's over, he's on to the Chargers.
Do you think that I know we'll meet the Vikings. Do you think people around here are aware of their tortured history? Because when you think of tortured history, obviously ours comes up and the Bills comes up. I mean, these are the ones that you think of and you go, gosh, can't catch a break when you think about, historically speaking, in most people who are alive's lifetime. Most, you're not that many people who remember the 60s. And so the Super Bowl losses for the Bills, our struggle, what happened to us in the AFC Championship game in the 80s and so forth and so on. I don't know that people don't realize that Minnesota's right there. Minnesota's been to Super Bowls and lost them. They had one of the most explosive teams in my lifetime that no one really got close to and lost at home to, what was it, Chris Miller?
Chris Chandler.
Chris Chandler.
And Jamal Anderson.
Same. In other words, Chris Miller, Chris Chandler.
In which their kicker who had not missed the entirety of the season, Gary Anderson, right? Yeah. And he missed, and they end up losing.
He was perfect all season.
All season. Had not missed a single kick.
Had not. No.
And misses.
Yeah.
And they lose.
Yeah.
The Brett Favre, they're poised to beat New Orleans, and he throws a pick.
Yeah. No, they've got beef with the football gods.
Yeah.
They've got legitimate pained football grief, and they've been good a lot. They have been they're probably, in my lifetime, I'm trying to think if there is a franchise that's been as consistently good in I'm a man, I'm 40, in my life that has been as consistently good and hasn't won it.
No, they're good. They're always
right there.
In the mix.
I mean, they're always good. They don't bottom out. I don't know that they bottomed out. Doesn't feel like they ever really bottom out. They're always a playoff team. They're always in the mix in the NFC North. Always competitive. Always have had cool players.
I like how people are up in arms. I knew what you were saying. With
About
the
what?
Biggest return in the National Football League by a mile this week. People are up in arms by that statement.
No, one idiot on Twitter doesn't get the show.
Come on.
It's one guy.
Do better.
One guy. Come on. Pay attention to the scores, if you will.
No. People that James the Ringer knew. He put hashtag tongue-in-cheek. Yeah, of course.
My entire shtick is my whole life's tongue-in-cheek. That's all I do.
I just thought that using Adele's "Hello from the Other Side" for Stefanski's return was a really class move.
See, what you should have done is before you mentioned that, and I threw the guy under the bus, you should have went with that right away.
Yeah.
And then we could have really had a lot
really
of. We could have done 10 minutes.
Really hammered up. By the way, speaking of people on Twitter, first person on Twitter that can break down my outfit for today for those watching on the stream.
Yep. It's an incredible homage.
We'll win a shout out. I'll get a shout out.
I like the program. It's an incredible homage out of you.
Does Gibby have it? I think you may have heard me say it.
Well, the door was open.
So yeah, you got.
When
All
you
right,
came in,
Yeah, don't give the people. Don't. Yeah,
and you did a little modeling, because this is what the show's all about.
That's right.
It's about modeling.
Congratulations, you wore something orange today. Well done.
Good. Way to throw him off the scent.
Detour.
Smart.
Look
at him.
What do you got there? What's your snacking on? What do you got there?
It's my only chance to eat. I'm scarfing down a salad.
Yesterday it looked like he was eating like a pizza Uncrustable is what it appeared to be. It was like a
buffalo chicken pocket, like pita.
I'm gonna give you something.
Like
you
a papadilla.
Here's something that neither of you two would have had about me. I, for the first time last weekend, tried buffalo chicken dip. I had never tried it until last weekend.
What's wrong
I had never
with you?
tried it. I don't know if it was. I didn't grow up with it, obviously, and it was something that.
What's it made out of?
It's never been at any tailgate or anything that I've been at.
Segura, have you never tried it?
No way. It feels like it's got to have mayo and cheese and.
Oh, both. I'm sure.
Is there chicken in it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's a shredded chicken. Gibby, you would know. It's a shredded chicken that feels like there's a blue cheese element to it, and then buffalo sauce, and it's just kind of all.
It's really that. Those are
Do
the
I
three
just
main
have
components.
I believe I have it.
Yeah.
So those are the elements, and then it's kind of an amalgamation of those things, kind of all come together. And I will. So I've never had it before, and I picked some up on a whim because we're going to do a little tailgate with the boys. And I said, "Boy, I've never had this. Why not? I'm willing to try new things." So I picked it up, and I go to the guy. I said, "I don't even know what do I do with this. What do I dip in this? What's the?"
It feels like it's too thick to break a chip. Like it would break a chip.
It does. Look at the big brain on Brett. Great job out of you. Great job out of you. No, you're right. A chip is not going to hold it. So you got to go with like a pita or a bagel chip.
And you need like a soft pita. You don't want the hard pita chips.
Well,
but that feels like then you have to knife it and spread it. It's like a spreadable.
You can do that, but like a bagel chip would work. I tried it. So they gave me two options. They gave me a bagel chip, and then they gave me a pita chip. And the consistency of this particular buffalo chicken dip, which I believe was made in Menor, local, support local, which it was actually very, very good. That allowed for the crisp pita chip. It could handle it.
Was it warm? Did you serve it warm or cold?
I didn't know what I was supposed to do with it.
You should do it warm.
Really
it should
warm.
be hot.
Oh, I didn't know. I did not have that.
It's a hot dip.
Feels like it's
more than anything
really?
else. It's a hot dip.
I didn't know. I went cold, but it was fun. It was nice. It's good. It's
Buffalo
good.
chicken dip.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
I would love to see Zegura spreading it on a cracker.
I think he'd like it.
I
think for sure
I
you'd
would
like
blatantly
it.
make fun of you and
it's got
point you out
heat.
to everybody.
You like wings? You love wings? You like
do.
a buffalo wing? I think you'd.
He doesn't like cheese.
But I don't love blue cheese. I don't dip it in blue cheese.
No, but you like a wedge, right? Is it a wedge or a Caesar you do?
Caesar.
You'll do a Caesar.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Caesar all
well,
day.
that's a creamy.
Not a true Caesar. It's not creamy in the least.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I've had many Caesars
olive
in my life.
Oil. Yeah, but they don't have it doesn't.
There's usually a little.
There's some Parmesan that's in there.
Little crema.
Egg.
You can have a little. Feel like, right?
Yes. If you get the anchovies.
It's an anchovy paste.
Have you?
Yeah,
where have you had a Caesar in other than Italy that wouldn't have some sort of a cream dressing, Caesar dressing?
Most like steakhouse ones don't have a.
No, of course they do.
No, it's not a creamy Caesar. I would send it right back. Be like, I am not eating this.
No, I know you're adverse to cream.
Yeah,
I did know that. All right, other piece of information we got here, and this is actually unfortunately for us pretty big news. Greg Newsome is out week to week, so he will not play this week in Minnesota. The good news is that you have contingency upon contingency, and Greedy Williams is healthy and did really quite well. Filling in for Greg at the end of the game last week. And this goes to something we talked about in the offseason of the issues you have last year with injuries will now be avoided because of the way you've drafted and what you've done in free agency.
Yeah, you're not starting special teams guys that have to come in and play cornerback. You've got a former second-round pick who was able to get his feet wet last week in Greedy Williams. Your fourth corner still is A.J. Green, somebody that you feel very happy about, who is in the NFL because of his ability to play cornerback, although he's been excellent on special teams so far. No, this is where the depth comes in, and we are, Anthony Walker's still out this week. We're now without, on the outside, we're without Greg Newsome, who's played very well, and this is good. This is a good offense. When we get into meet the Vikings, as I've gone through and started to do my preparations, I think we have to win a shootout to win this game. Now, maybe that'll help me do better in the over-unders this week. I don't know. As long as we keep winning, I really don't care what my over-under scores are.
No.
And as long as I'm funding colleges for all of you.
I like how people are picking up on that finally, that's getting done at a high level. Jed Will's out today as well. And that's one where it's you said this off air, and you almost wonder if is he at the point, and you respect the heck out of the commitment and the effort and the give a damn he's got clearly, but would he be better off just sitting one out and getting right? Because it does feel like it's a struggle for him physically.
Yeah, it does feel like it's a struggle. I think that the Browns feel like they might be in a bit of a pickle with Chris Hubbard out. Yeah. So did Chris Hubbard practice today then, Gibbe, since he was not on that list?
Yeah, in the walkthrough period, he was out there, but
okay, so that to me changes the narrative. I think that they were a little hesitant to put Blake Hance out there at left tackle, who is by trade an interior offensive lineman, and I think it's pretty clear that the feeling is at this point anyway that James Hudson is not yet ready for prime time, which is fine. The guy's played one season as a left tackle in his life in college, and you drafted him for down the road. This is for him to be in camp and learning. So I think if Chris Hubbard is able to go, that gives them a lot more comfort that you've got a guy who is a starter, a guy who has been out there and who has done it, many, many, many times, that maybe you feel more comfortable with Jed, because, you're going to have your hands full here. This is a very good pass rush of Minnesota. They've got 10 sacks. I think we have 12, which is second in the NFL.
Yep.
They've got 10. So this is a team that can get after the quarterback quite a bit, and this is a team that, you need to be good up front. Danielle Hunter's got 4 sacks of his own. On the other side, you've got Everson Griffin, who just notched his first sack since rejoining the team. So you want to be healthy, and I think ultimately you want Jed to get healthy, right? That's really where you're looking for it. And so far, just kind of to put it in perspective for people, Danielle Hunter has lined up against the opponent's right tackle.
Okay.
Right tackle 44 and 82 times. He's lined up against their left tackle 41. So he's gone against the right. So he'd be on Jack Conklin more often than not, but they will move him back and forth depending on the matchup. Week 1, it was an even split. The last 2 weeks, significantly going against the right tackle. So that could be a matchup thing that they do week to week.
All right. Lots to get to on the program today. You will hear from 6. A little bit later on in the program, we will indeed meet the Vikings. You'll hear from Courtney Cronin on the program. Do I have this right? Hoops on the program?
Yes.
Oh, very, very exciting. So you'll have Austin Hooper will join the program as well. We're off and running on a First Friday Miracle Edition. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau here for my guys at Weather Seal Home Services. Do you have a leaky roof, loose shingles, or roof discoloration? Don't head into winter with a bad roof. In fact, call them now. Give them a call. Weather Seal Home Services. You get a beautiful new roof before the season ends. Plus, choose between free gutters or gutter guard. Also, get up to 7 years 0 interest with approved credit. Trust in Weather Seal to do the job right for the best price and the lowest monthly payments. They will take care of you. I assure you of that. Call 877-351-SEAL or go to weathersealhomeservices.com. Time to hit the OBM Hot Topics. Ohio Business Machine, preferred copier provider of your Cleveland Browns. They have all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. And we turn the page to the Vikings and the start of a 6-game stretch that's a little fun. This is, how good are you? You're about to find out. At Minnesota, at the Chargers, home to Arizona, Thursday night against what is currently an undefeated Denver team, but again, I think is a bit of a paper tiger. Pittsburgh at home on Halloween, and then at Cincinnati. Those are the next 6.
Yeah, good stretch, and it starts. I'm, trying to live in the moment, focus on. There's only one game on my mind right now, and that's the Browns and the Minnesota Vikings.
That's right.
That's it. One game at a time. By the way, shout out Iron Will. He knew that this was a Beau. He's calling it a costume. So people have gotten it on the superficial level. Tommy Clayco says running that Beau Bishop special today on Browns Daily quarter zip season. I wear quarter zips all the time myself.
Yeah.
What is unique about my outfit today is the blue shorts, the congressional orange quarter zip, the backwards white hat. This is exactly what you wore yesterday.
White Browns hat.
Browns hat. That's right.
Yeah. That is exactly what I wore yesterday.
Yeah. And I got excited to wear it this morning.
I was going to say, was this predetermined? I'm going to wear
I'm gonna wear
the knockoff.
I liked your outfit because
the next day.
I often, and I don't know if you had noticed this I often, when I wear this quarter zip, I wear it with the blue shorts because you got the blue in here from the congressional logo, and it just
hard to coordinate.
It just goes nicely together.
Yeah.
No, you're not. I mean,
no,
look at the.
You got it. You got to have the. You got to
look at your green alligator, green on the hat, another shade of maybe brown green here in these lovely shorts.
Green in the short, little green in the short. Yeah. No, you've got it.
That's right.
That's I mean, we've had a lot of great quarter zips. That's among my favorite. That is a Mount Rushmore quarter zip. That congressional quarter zip in
this
color.
One and the Stefanski are the two elite quarter zips.
I have no problem with that. There's something about the weight of that one. I have actually sought out trying to find others of that material, and I've never. I wear it to coach football in. I wear it to play golf.
Yes,
it's spectacular.
My top, if I had like a top 5 quarter zips,
the official teaching pro responsible for that.
That's right, Mr. Dixon. So it would be this. It would be the Stefanski.
Yeah.
It would be my Mountain Shadows one with the camo
I like that
arm.
One. Yeah,
it has a great fit. The navy one from Mr. Modley because it's so light. That's a lightweight one. And then obviously the USS Cleveland one with our names on it is pretty, from a sentimental standpoint, is pretty stout.
Strong. Yeah,
quite
strong to quite strong. Yeah. So this is the stretch that you're in with Minnesota. I'm excited for you. It'll be your first time at that stadium. Gibby, have you been there? You haven't been there either, right?
So it's funny. I was talking to Z about it earlier. We've only been to Minnesota once in the 9 years I've been doing this, and it was the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome when we went. It was my first season doing this.
Okay.
So the last time we played, we were in London.
Sure.
So
okay.
I mean, we have.
I was on the call.
Those many years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is we have 3 new stadiums this year. Atlanta.
Oh, and you're going to run
Minnesota,
SoFi back.
And then the LA Stadium,
the Palace.
Which the Bears people told us is ungodly loud.
Loud?
Yes.
Wonder what they did.
The Bears think it rivals Seattle.
I wonder what they did.
I'm assuming piping in crowd noise.
All that glass, maybe. You heard Coach talk about that in Minnesota, how the glass reverberates the sound. There's a ton of glass.
Now, I've heard Minnesota Stadium is very similar to Atlanta's. So,
I've not been in Atlanta's. I think Minnesota's stadium, I was there for a wedding. So, it's a little different experience, but I was down on the field. To me, the Minnesota Stadium, if you were building a stadium in the north, that's what you build. Like, it's nicer than Lucas Oil, but it's probably how Lucas Oil felt when they built it 10 years ago. Like,
stadium
so
in the
nice.
north.
That's what Minnesota. It's stunning. I mean, I think you guys will be floored by how beautiful it is.
I mean, Madden does a pretty good job, I feel like, of giving you a feel for the stadiums, and it's one of my favorite to play in just in Madden. I think
it's in the shape of a Viking ship, isn't it?
The point Yeah, it is. It's got the point. They've got the giant, thing where you do your thing with the horn.
The horn.
That guy. Yep, they got that guy.
Yeah, I'm pumped for that
It's
guy.
pretty good. That's exciting. No, it's great, and it's got all this natural light, which is such a brilliant thing to do. Like you have these giant structures, and now they're saying, hey, man, why don't we put windows on these things? We don't need to make these all concrete. Like, let's let the light shine in, man. Heaven, let your light shine down. What was that? Who's that? Who's the band on? I know the song, but I can't say the band. They were a big deal for a while.
Is it Bush?
No, it's not Bush.
No. Hold on. It's not 311.
No, it's definitely not 311.
Fontana just drove off the road. You saying it's not 311.
311's fine, band.
That's Fontana. Well, these guys,
Well,
Collective Soul.
This is a good
Collective Soul.
Collective Soul.
Yeah, they had
Strong.
quite a few
Band.
hits then.
Yeah.
They
Don't
had,
knock that.
They brought it
No,
for
I'm
a
just,
couple.
they're
few
fine.
years there,
I'm just
few
saying
years
311 was elite.
What do they have other than Down? 311. As I just made
Amber?
Fontana again drive off the road.
Whoa.
That time,
Can we get
that
Fontana?
Time
Amber
Fontana's
is
in the
the
ditch.
color
Can we
of
get him?
her
To,
energy.
can we get him? To
He's
the
going to need a
station?
tow.
Poor kid.
Oh.
Hate to do that to him. I feel like I'd know that more other than I don't, but I don't know it as what you said it. I feel like if I heard it, I'd know it.
Amber?
Yeah.
No, what I did was right on, so if you didn't get it on that.
You would
They
be
might be
surprised how many
contacting
It was
songs.
me.
actually
that
a
they
doppelganger for them. Yeah.
They might be contacting me to fill in if
Okay.
he ever gets hoarse on the road.
Yeah, so it's going to be fun. It's what I love this city. I love this city in the fall. I can't imagine it's great in the winter, but even if it is, you can navigate the entire downtown without going outside because they have all the sky bridges and
Ice
everything
fishing,
there,
dude.
which I absolutely love. They do have the ice fishing. Fargo kind of gives you a certain picture about that part of the country in the winter that paints it in not the greatest of lights. But I love the downtown. One of my favorite restaurants was there, but it went under in the pandemic. They closed it up.
Sad.
Butcher was it Butcher and the Boar? Yeah, something like that. It was fantastic. Incredible bourbon list, incredible meat list. Yeah, big win. But I think they shut it down amidst the pandemic. Congratulations to Myles Garrett, AFC Defensive Player of the Week. Second time in his career he's won it. Yeah, 4.5 sacks.
Yeah, franchise record.
That'll do it for you, to say the least. All right, we will meet the Vikings coming up. You'll hear from 6 in about 15 minutes. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. VantageSports has that local presence, but the global footprint trusted by some of the world's biggest brands. This is a testimonial from Vantage client Tom Darty. He's the Senior Vice President of Specialty Programs at the NIP Group. He says, quote, I have a saying about working with Vantage. If you dream it, they can build it. We generate lots of ideas for them to carry out, and they've implemented everything we've come up with. We brainstorm ways to innovate and improve our company. We use Vantage for their infrastructure, coding, and programming capabilities, technological expertise, and experience working with global brands. We're absolutely thrilled with our partnership, and you would be too. And you can learn more about Vantage by visiting www.eoxvantage.com or call 216-298-1616. That's 216-298-1616. And with that, it is time to meet the Minnesota Vikings. Dr. Z!
All right, this is an explosive offense, folks, and we're going to start off with the offense of the Minnesota Vikings. This is a team that can absolutely get it up and down the field. You have an elite quarterback, and I'm going to say it. I think he is an elite quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Why do I say that? Here's where he ranks in the NFL over the last 10 games. Second in passing yards, averaging 303.6 per game. Third with 26 passing touchdowns. So he's averaging 300 yards, 2.6 touchdowns per game. In his last 10, he's thrown exactly 2 interceptions, and he's completing 70.5% of his passes, also third best. So in the last 10 games in the NFL as quarterback, he is second in yards, third in touchdowns, third in fewest interceptions, and third in completion percentage. On this season, this is an offense that is moving it up and down the field. They are third in total offense, 425 yards per game. They are top 10 in yards per play, so they're efficient as well. They are 6th in rushing, 8 in rush yards per attempt, 7th overall in passing. They have the best interception rate. Why? Because he hasn't thrown one. He hasn't thrown an interception in 200 straight pass attempts. They are 6th in sacks allowed per pass attempts. Only 5 times has Kirk Cousins been sacked this season. They are 11th in third down conversion rate. They are 63% in the red zone. They average possessing the ball almost 32 minutes. So this is a football team that is excellent. They can run it. They can throw it. They've got elite receivers in Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. They have an elite running back in Dalvin Cook. And even when he was out last week, Madison rushed for over 100 yards. So they are, and in many ways, they're similar to us. You're going to see a lot of the same concepts, a lot of the same schemes. Quick passing game, run it, wide zone, play action boots off the ride zone with the levels concepts. They are very much like the Browns. They do not have as good of an offensive line. You have an opportunity to get them there. They've only turned the football over once all season. This is a good football team because you've got Jefferson, you've got Thielen, you've got KJ Osborne, those top 3 receivers already. All 3 have scored. They're averaging combined over 200 yards and over 2 touchdowns per game. So you would want to have Greg Newsome, but Greedy Williams is going to be a guy that's got to get ready to go.
It's amazing how they ended up with Jefferson, and in a rare instance where a trade helps both teams. They both benefit from that, with Stephon Diggs going to Buffalo and giving them another element of that offense, and then they land with Justin Jefferson, who was just part of an otherworldly attack at LSU, especially now that you get there, all of those guys starting to matriculate to the pros and you see what they're capable of. Him and Thielen are as good a duo as you'll find. They're as good a duo as you'll find in the league.
Excellent.
You add Cook to that, and that is a 3-headed monster there. Cousins has been incredible this year. It has to be acknowledged. He's completing 74% of his passes, which is wild, as you mentioned. The thing that about them and him, that is, you think about the marriage between him and that organization, and they drafted Kellen Mond, the kid out of Texas A&M, maybe potentially be the quarterback of the future. Who knows? Cousins is, what is he, 33? He's still young, relatively young. But I think there is kind of this feeling with him of, is he kind of, what's the AFC comparison? He's more than Dalton? Is he more than what Dalton was in Cincinnati? Is that kind of where you're at? Is he what Phillip Rivers was in LA? I mean,
he's different. He's not going to – Phillip Rivers is going to beat you as much as he helps you win. Kirk Cousins isn't going to beat you like that. I mean, listen, last 10 games, he's second in the league in yards.
I understand that. And statistically, like fantasy, excellent. He's fantastic. But there always is it feels like there's a limit to what he's capable of and they've won playoff games. but there's a narrative around him that he can only take you so far, and that goes back to his time in Washington, where the feeling there was he didn't beat anybody he wasn't supposed to. Now, he's done that a few times in Minnesota. I mean, they went down to New Orleans and won a playoff game with him. So he has had that type of success there. But he does feel like a guy who you're always, as an organization, it's almost like, well, you're always trying to replace him.
It does feel that way, but I don't know if I don't know if you took the temperature of them right now, if they feel that way, the way the guy's playing.
He's off to a great start. I mean, they had an awkward camp, though, too. Very awkward camp.
With the COVID.
And they were bad in the game against Cincinnati.
They
bad.
have not been
Cincinnati raced out on them, and then through various things that happened from Cincinnati's perspective, they allowed them to get back in the game, and it eventually went to overtime, and Cincinnati won the game. Since then, they've lost to Arizona.
Yeah,
on a
when
field
he
goal.
drove them down the field.
When he drove them down the field,
35-yard field
and
goal.
missed it.
Missed.
And then they beat Seattle at home. They were down. I mean, this very easily. I mean, they were down 17-7 to Seattle.
They could easily be 3-0,
and they easily could be. Yeah,
easily 3-0. Only one giveaway all season. Kirk Cousins is good. I mean, you go into the numbers when they run play action, which they do. Again, this is a team that's very similar to us out in play action. 20 of 26 for 219 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a quarterback rating of 140 off of play action. No play action. He's still great. 73% completion, 699 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks, quarterback rating of 112. He is a very, very, very good and very efficient quarterback. If you're trying to look for the things where you can get to him, I mean, his completion percentage unpressured, 81%, pressure drops to 51.7. So, but that's typical of all quarterbacks. But that's where you've got to get there. He will put the ball on the ground. He's not lost a fumble yet. You've got to try to get him to fumble the football. And then here's the one area, batted passes. He's got 42 batted passes since 2018. That's the most in the NFL. Because he gets the ball out so quickly. We talked last week about Baker's quick passing game.
Yeah.
He's going to do that quick passing game on you. So the rushers, it's not going to be a sack fest this week. It'll be very difficult for that to happen. Like I said, they've given up 5 all year. But you can be disruptive in the throwing lanes. And if you're not going to get there, get up and try to get – because 70% of his passes are caught within 9 yards of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
70%.
That's wild. It's a wild number.
And yet they're averaging 300 yards a game. They're averaging 170 yards a game after the catch.
Yeah.
Because he's
They
accurate.
have not played a great defense yet either.
I would say that
At
they
this
have
point.
not.
No, they have not. They haven't seen anybody quite like us. You'll hear from our quarterback coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
You guys are down.
Do you love the Browns? Get exclusive team access with NFL Extra Points credit card for special ticket financing, 20% off at NFLshop.com. Rewards like player meet and greet, signed memorabilia. Apply today at NFLExtraPoints.com. Get started. 10,000 bonus points after qualifying purchases, enough to redeem a $100 statement credit. To learn more, visit NFLExtraPoints.com. Offer subject to credit approval. See application terms and conditions for complete details. And now, here's your quarterback, Baker Mayfield, from the podium from earlier today.
Baker, I'm sure Kevin wanted
You're down 7.5.
any more to him going back to a place he spent 14 years?
I mean, anytime you have familiarity with, the system, I mean, that's 14 years is a long time. So, I mean, yeah, I think it would mean a lot to him. He's not going to tell anybody here that, but I mean, we have a lot of people that have had familiarity within Minnesota, that Vikings franchise. So, like I said, it's anytime you play people that it makes it more fun. There's just a little bit more, friendly competition within it.
Hey, Baker, of all the things that Kevin's helped do to get things turned in the right direction here, what has been the most impactful in your mind?
It's a tough question. I'd say between the consistency, his even-keeled nature, and just kind of holding everybody accountable to that standard that we're trying to set. We talk about building a winning culture and making that the new standard. He does a great job of keeping that, the main thing and the most important thing every day. All good?
I mean, you talked about how his familiarity with the Vikings. So how can that insight help you guys, just as him knowing some of the guys on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, anytime you have that much experience against a certain scheme, defense, and a lot of the same players, then you have some insights, some tips and tricks of what to look for, little nuances. I know they're going to have their wrinkles for us. There's no doubt about that. But, yeah, just those little tips and reminders that he's going to have, you got to pay attention to those.
Have you gone over the first, I assume you went over the first quarter last week closely. What do you think, you had some problems connecting. What was the issue there?
We just have to start fast. I mean, it's just all around. We've got to start fast and eliminate mistakes early and get growing. I mean, we were lucky that the defense played as well as they did, and made those plays early on and held them to that few amount of yards. So we have to start fast on offense and get better.
You're in the huddle with him. Do you think Jed Wills, that ankle's bothering him more than he lets on?
I mean, Jed's a tough guy. He's a warrior. I mean, at this point in the year, like I said, the best you feel is when you show up for training camp. After that, your body's hurting a little bit. So he's fighting through whatever it is, and he's doing whatever he can to get back at 100% each week and get as close to that as possible. And we appreciate that about him.
What case I was going to ask you, Baker, Kevin mentioned that last week, how much that means to teammates when a player that is hurt, really kind of has to grind hard to get out there on Sunday. Does that mean a lot when you see somebody fight like that to be out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you don't want them to hurt themselves more, but, you appreciate when they grit it out, when they tough it out through those circumstances.
Baker, you've completed passes to a lot of different guys. Is that any kind of point of emphasis, or is that just you taking, what you see is there?
I think that's, exactly what we talked about going in through it, going through my reads and finding the open guy, letting, the coverage and whatnot dictate where the ball goes and not trying to key in and lock in on one single person, but let the flow of the game dictate that.
When you watch Minnesota's defense, what gets your attention most?
I mean, obviously they have some very, very good players on defense. You talk about, in the back end, Harrison Smith has been there for a while. Kendricks is great. And then up front, they got some good players. So it's, you have to know where those guys are at all times. I mean, they're going to be in the right spots at the right time. But they've been playing together for a long time. So it's, that they're going to disguise a little bit, then get into what they want. And they recognize, patterns and whatnot very quickly. So they're instinctual. They're a good team.
You expect Sheldon to come after you and talk nonstop?
Well, as long as he doesn't wear that single digit like he did in the preseason, I thought it made him look a little softer in the midsection. No, I love Sheldon. He's a good dude. But yeah, he'll be chirping, that's for sure.
Baker, you guys do so much with three tight ends. I mean, you'll spread them out. You'll do all sorts of different things. For you, what does that kind of do for you, especially when you do spread out those three guys?
Yeah, for us, when we get into that package where we have all three guys out there, just, seeing exactly how defense is playing us, because we obviously can run the ball out of that package. That's, mostly what teams are going to be prepared for. But then when we do spread them out is what matchups do we have and how are teams deciding to guard us. And so it's just recognition of that.
I know Kevin's taken responsibility for mistakes before, but he really said it was that 4th and 1 was all his fault. He said it was bad call, bad design. First of all, do you like when you hear the coach and play caller take responsibility like that?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of everything. I think we could have gotten the first down on 2nd down before that, and then on 3rd down we could have gotten it as well. And then, that was a play where Khalil Mack lines up on the left side. He's typically on the right. And, a player of that caliber is going to get his plays every once in a while. And so it just so happened to be on a 4th and 1, in a critical situation down in the red zone.
With Odell saying he was exhausted, do you think another week of getting him into the flow will help, this week?
Yeah, I think, just those game reps, I think he knows exactly how he has to be, prepared throughout the week. But that's something that's only going to come with those game reps. And so I think he's going to push himself during practice this week as well and, get ready to go as best he can.
Hey, Baker, Chase McLaughlin's had a really nice start for you guys, had a 57-yarder the other day. Does the confidence kind of bleed through the team when you have a kicker that you can count on every time you send him out?
Yeah, it's definitely something that we can rely on, that fallback plan. But we, hats off to Chase, but we want to go score touchdowns and not field goals. So it's nice to have that, definitely, but we need to be better on offense about scoring touchdowns.
Now with 3 games into this year, compared to last year, what do you feel the offense has grown the most from last year?
I think we know our identity. We know exactly what we need to be doing. Now, the execution part is exactly what we need to do. We need to play a complete game on offense. We need to start fast, finish. Last week we didn't turn the ball over, which was, one of the things we harped on within the week of practice. So we need to play one of those complete games, and, this is the next great challenge, the next best opportunity to do it.
I know you call Kareem, his style, angry. But, physically, how would you describe it? It seems like there's a lot of moving body parts when he's running around.
He runs like a Tasmanian devil. It's like his upper body's leaning one way, his lower body, his balance, it's outstanding. It's something that very few people are blessed with. And like I said after the game, we're lucky and blessed to have those 2 guys in our backfield.
When you see him running like that, do you think Chubb sort of pushes to try to match him? You know what I mean? Like, I know he plays that way.
Chubb's going to be himself no matter what, whether there's a meteor shower outside or it's sunshine and rainbows. He's going to be the same guy every day, but that's what we love about him.
Baker, I don't
30.
know if this or not, but there have been a series of midfield flag plants in college football this year, most recently Garrett Gilbert's alma mater over the weekend. Do you think that you've started a trend potentially here?
I don't want to take credit, but I did see Gary Patterson's comments. He wasn't too happy about the SMU Mustangs planning that midfield. No, I think it's funny because it wasn't planned. None of it was, but and now I'm in Ohio, so full circle.
You're up. Did go full circle for him.
Sure did.
I like that Tasmanian devil on Kareem Hunt, like some sort of a
whirling dervish.
Yeah,
but I would like to see a
There's just extremities flopping and
that's
flying
just
everywhere.
If you're under what age, do you have no idea who the Tasmanian devil is? Like my kids do because they have it on HBO Max, and so I found them and we watched the old Looney Tunes. But
if we walk down the hall to the video department, at least 3 people in there would not know who the Tasmanian devil is.
Connor wouldn't know.
Yeah.
He might not. He'd be in the demographic.
He'd be in the demographic that would not. Yeah.
Although, could he have been what was the demographic for the first Space Jam? Was that us? Or was that younger than us?
Younger than us.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the
only.
My
little brother loved it. He's like 7-8 years younger than me.
Okay, so Connor's not 7 or 8 years.
No.
Significantly
more so than that.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, she's one of our favorite. Courtney Cronin will join us next. We go behind enemy lines with the Vikings in the second hour on a First Friday. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Football isn't football without friends. Watching the Browns alone means no one can hear your amazing in-game analysis. The same is true when gambling. Keep things social. Never gamble alone. It's one of the many helpful, responsible gambling tips you'll find at keepitfunohio.com on that front. Couple of quick things as we get Courtney on here in just a second. Richard Sherman signing with Tampa Bay today. That would seem to make all the sense in the world after the Tom Brady recruiting and also the fact of how much they play zone, which would fit his skill set quite well. What's left of his skill set,
That's exactly where, and apparently there was interest from a lot of teams in the league. The Panthers, the 49ers, his former teams, 49ers and Seattle, both in the mix, but he decided to go, as many do, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Richard Sherman looking to get another ring there. Not a surprise. What is a surprise, though, Jay Glazer saying things heating up in Houston, that they are now significantly more open to trading Deshaun Watson and that Miami is the leader. He mentioned this in his Fox pregame show Sunday. Today at 1:46, so just a few minutes ago, tweeted out, keep an eye on this scoopage here. And it sounds like things are in the mix. Also, good bit of news for the Browns at practice today. Chris Hubbard is back, as is Sione Takitaki. So Hubbard being back, I think, gives you a little more comfort at that left tackle spot should Jed not be ready, and maybe you make the decision, let's give you just a week off and get you back to 100% as opposed to kind of going through here in this middle of the road phase in terms of your health.
I honestly don't know how it would even go with Deshaun Watson. That's one of the more complicated acquisitions that in sports to try to pull off, because you just have no idea. I mean, the NFL hasn't had to rule on him because he's not playing there. So they haven't had to make a ruling. I assume that if he were traded to Miami, my assumption has been that he would then be suspended until the matter is closed off the field. I mean, we've seen this with Ezekiel Elliott and others where there were allegations and they're sat down. I assume he would be sat down. From the Miami standpoint, though, you could certainly play the long game on it and say, based on what is alleged and what he's accused of at this point, none of those things none of those things are capital crimes. It's not like he's going to be likely spending years in jail. Could do some jail time, but who knows? But we're a long ways to that. There's a burden of proof, and a man is innocent until proven guilty, and so you have all of that. And you may be able to pull that deal off at a relatively low price. So it's just it's an incredible balancing act. And if you're Houston, you could say, look, we got to just get out from under this thing, which is you can't deal from the position of weakness, but that's kind of where they're at.
Right. They're stuck, and it's a situation that had reached an impasse prior to these allegations coming out, but at least then they would have had some leverage, and now you're right, their leverage is decreased. But at some point, are you going to get nothing out of this? They're paying him. He is being paid his full salary to not play, to not practice, to not do anything. So at some point, you got to say, it's a sunk cost. Let's recoup some of these losses.
Yeah, and Miami is a suitor. I thought Carolina. I mean, anybody you talk to, Carolina was a suitor before all this stuff happened, and I think he probably could have ended up there. Miami makes a lot of sense, and then it would force the NFL's hand almost immediately. What do you do? I assume it would be Tua headed. I assume Tua would head to Houston. I'm sure he'd be a part of that deal, along with probably some defensive players and a couple of draft picks. But one thing about Glazer, he doesn't blow smoke. So if he has something and he's telling you to pay attention, odds are you ought to.
Yeah, Jay Glazer does not deal, as we've said many times, in speculation. Jay Glazer deals in facts, and typically when Jay Glazer says something like this, like, oh, pay attention, this is heating up, that means that he knows that it's pretty much almost already ready to go.
Yeah. I mean, don't you think he will be suspended for the conduct code?
I know that you would say right now that they are not because they don't need to.
They haven't had to, yeah.
But that would be
Courtney.
That would be a real hard thing to just throw out there. Oh, well, now that you actually might be playing, you're going to. Don't you think the Texans are lobbying for that so that they don't have to pay him? So I feel like the league would have been, if they were going to do it, they'd have done it.
I feel like everyone's in on it that's involved. Watson, Texans, and the NFL. They're all just.
What are the Texans getting out of this by having him be compensated and not suspended?
Well, I just don't think you want to go to war with him.
It's over. They have gone.
No,
to war.
but I mean from the standpoint of eventually they want to
We got
attract
Courtney.
people again, and he's a popular player around the league. I mean, they want to be a destination again. Someone that we absolutely love to talk to when we go behind enemy lines is Courtney Cronin. We visited with her when we got Kevin Stefanski from Minnesota, and she was excellent then and will be now again. She covers the Vikings, of course, for ESPN's NFL Nation. She is a host on ESPN Radio. Well, this is the I used this line earlier in the show. This is the return in the NFL everybody's talking about, right? Stefanski back to Minnesota this week.
The 1B option.
That's right. Well, listen, he's not going to – you know him. He's not going to give you anything. I mean, our beat people here were trying to ask him about, if it was emotional. No, not having it. I'm sure it is behind the scenes. Can you tell us what he means and what his time represents there in Minnesota from your perspective?
Yeah, I think he means stability. I mean, you've got to think about how many different staffs Kevin lasted through here in Minnesota since the time he got here in 2006. Worked under Brad Childress, worked under Leslie Frazier, worked under Mike Zimmer, and then he gets his opportunity after 14 seasons with one franchise to go somewhere else. Like, that just doesn't happen where you see somebody stay in the same place, last that long, and is that widely respected. I mean, there's so many people in this building outside of just like, the football staff and the coaches and the players. Like, he is so widely respected inside TCO Performance Center. Like, I don't know if you hear people talk about a former staffer the way that they talk about Kevin Stefanski here in Minnesota. And of course, some of that has to do with, just the time that he spent here. I mean, he touched a lot of different people. He coached a lot of different position groups. But beyond that, you'll remember the time that, Cleveland was courting him, there was kind of this weird possibility that this team that just made the playoffs and won a game in New Orleans, depending upon how if that game would have been a loss, maybe we're looking at a new head coaching situation here in Minnesota where Stefanski's here and Zimmer's somewhere else. I mean, there were reports about Zimmer being traded to Dallas that, had validity to them. The ownership group put out a statement the Friday before that game saying that they support the head coach and the GM, which, shows you behind the scenes there were people pushing for Stefanski to take over this franchise. And everybody I've talked to wishes him well, except for this one weekend when they're playing Minnesota. But I call Cleveland Vikings East because you've got, Prefer there, you've got, the tight ends coach, Drew Petzing there. You've got so many former staffers, Jeff Howard on there, people in the front office, that it's just crazy to me how many ties Minnesota has to Cleveland. Some because of Kevin Stefanski, some just by happenstance, and it's going to be emotional, I think, for him coming back here, whether he's going to talk about this or not.
And he's not. He is not going to talk about it. He's going on a business trip to get it done, and the Browns have, I think, a real challenge on their hands. The Vikings are a field goal away from being 2-1, and probably a couple plays in Cincinnati away from being 3-0. And when we look at this offense, we just kind of did the Meet the Vikings in this offense. Kirk Cousins is playing elite football. Dalvin Cook is elite. And if you don't mind in the answer, touching on whether or not the expectation is that he is back this week, Jefferson, Thielen. I mean, this is a loaded offense. So my question to you is, where can the Browns defense, it's coming off a dominant performance, where, if anywhere, can you attack this Vikings offense? Are there any weak spots on the line, perhaps? I don't know.
Yeah, I think there certainly are still. That first week with so many penalties, like you never put yourself in a good position to try to win a game when you're constantly in 2nd and 20, 3rd and 25. It just doesn't work like that. But you saw marked improvement from the offensive line week 2, certainly week 3, and that's something that I think is a very good sign. But that pass rush for Cleveland, sacking Justin Fields 9 times. I got asked the question, is the Bears offensive line worse than the Vikings? And I think the answer is an obvious yes, but Minnesota still hasn't been tested all that much with other teams' pass rushes. So I think that's where, if you're Cleveland, you're looking to probably attack them first, considering all of the stars that you have up front. And that's probably the most vulnerable spot for them still. Like, they had a couple good games against Arizona, which you go into that thinking Chandler Jones is going to have another field day. It doesn't happen. And then last week against Seattle, like they never pressured Kirk Cousins. Like, that was something that they did not bring to the table. They had their standard rush. and it just didn't work. So I think that if you're Cleveland, that's probably where you start. And I think you had mentioned Cook. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Well, we'll see in a few minutes. We're going out to practice, and he said that he's still hitting his rehab really hard. And the way that Alexander Mattison played last week, maybe you don't need Dalvin Cook this week if you can get as much production out of your number two as you did against Seattle.
Courtney, what can you tell us about Kirk Cousins at age 33, off to the best start in his career? Really has played exceptional to start this season, but it was an awkward training camp with the COVID discussion and around it, and it was something that I wondered, boy, is that something that can pull a team apart? What have you seen in relationship to Cousins and the team and the relationship?
It's kind of wild because you think back to August when the conversation was, is Kirk's COVID stance on the COVID-19 vaccine going to tear this locker room apart? And you fast forward about 6 weeks, and it couldn't be further from the case where, players are talking about his leadership style. And I went and asked Dalvin Cook about this today. He said that it was difficult. Like, you can't expect a guy in 2018 to come in and he's paid all this money and just immediately be like, that's my team. This is my team taking over. Like, unless you're Tom Brady, it's very difficult when you switch locations and you're coming to a team that had a lot of success to just basically plant the flag and say, we're going to do it my way. This is my team. Follow me. It took Kirk 4 years to get to the point where he's comfortable asserting himself in ways that he hasn't before. And he's never going to be the emotional leader, so to speak, and the guy who's screaming up and down in the huddle and, running up and down the sidelines, jacking everybody up. Like, he's going to lead the way that he does. And I think some of that's calculated in this calm manner where he tries to be very precise, especially in the fourth quarter, those games where he gave them a chance to win the game in Cincinnati and Arizona, prime examples of what his leadership has evolved to here in Minnesota. And it's just kind of wild when you think about where we were 6 weeks ago to where we are now. It just feels like night and day.
It does, and the efficiency is off the charts. And in many ways, this is going to be one like that Spider-Man meme in terms of the way these offenses conduct their business, right? I mean, that's where Kevin Stefanski was the play caller, taking over in 2019, Gary Kubiak, and obviously his family's influence still there. When a quarterback plays well in that scheme, they can be as efficient as anybody. And I would say Cousins has done that at I would call it an elite level. I mean, 200 straight passes without an interception. His completion percentage off the charts. He's thrown for over 300 yards a game, almost 3 touchdowns a game. Do you think is the knock, though, is he still a game manager? If there's one thing that jumps out when you look at the numbers, it's the only thing that they haven't done as a passing offense is throw the ball down the field. That's it.
Yeah, and I think those explosive plays are – they'll come eventually. Like, they didn't really need to do it against Seattle. Like, Arizona, you saw it a few times, especially that first play of the game to KJ Osborne. It was, right off play action. That was Kirk's sweet spot, and that's his bread and butter for what makes him a good quarterback. Do I think he's playing at an elite level? I mean, the stats will back that. Like, the 90-plus passer rating for 17 consecutive games, that's one of the best marks all time. And you mentioned he has not thrown a turnover, or he has not thrown an interception. He hasn't had a single turnover, whether it's a pick or a fumble or what have you. Now I think the conversation has to evolve into something more about Kirk Cousins. Because nationally it's, hey, when is he going to get his due? When is he going to start to get the respect that he deserves? I think what's at stake for him now, knowing he's in a contract year, and ultimately – does he have to win games to get his due? I think all of those are fair questions because, we've seen parts of this before, but it's not like the Vikings have their usual October stretch that features the Lions, the Giants, the other New York team, all the bad teams where you can rack up really big numbers. Like, they don't have a stretch like that this year. So Cousins has to do what he typically does when he's NFC Player of the Month. The annual award he gets because he puts up really good numbers against bad teams, and do that against the good teams. So doing it against Seattle, whether you think Seattle's, on the decline or not, like, they're a good team. They beat a good opponent this past weekend. Now you have to follow up and do that against the Browns and show it isn't just a one-off. It isn't just, an early season thing where teams are still trying to figure out their identity and you strike them at the right time. It has to be a consistent thing because the knock on him nationally, I think throughout his career, he's won one playoff game. What do these numbers mean if they don't actually get you to your ultimate goal?
And I think that's a fair question and a fair point. And, what's interesting when you think about the Vikings under Mike Zimmer, you typically think about an elite defense, and it feels right now they are much more of an elite offense, but a defense that was, 17-7 Seahawks, and then they go 23-0. They shut them out basically over the remainder of that football game. Did that defense find something, or is this defense that statistically right now, they face Cincinnati, good offense, not elite. Arizona definitely can move the ball. Seattle can as well. We can move the ball, but is the defense now, is this more of an offensive team than a defensive team, which would be a real departure from what you think of a Mike Zimmer team?
It's kind of crazy to think about where they spent all that money on defense this offseason in getting all these big-name free agents, everybody from Dalvin Tomlinson to Patrick Peterson, and the defense does not look like it's all that improved. I mean, they figured it out in the second half against Seattle, but they also were ahead, and they were using their offense to be their best defense because the offense was on the field nearly 23 minutes. When you're in a situation like that, you're going to be able to pass rush, and this team is obviously at its best when it can just, tee off on the offensive line and Russell Wilson because they're forced into passing situations to try to get back in the game. But I do think that, the big question becomes, is Kirk Cousins and the offense going to have to carry this defense this season the way that it did in 2020? The whole reason they spent all that money on defense in the offseason and draft picks too was to try to alleviate some of that pressure that's on the offense. Right now, it kind of feels like the offense is the identity of this team. And truly dating back to the Stefanski era, where he was the offensive coordinator, to me, that's when we started seeing the shift, where this team was becoming less of like a defensive juggernaut and more of like kind of fitting in with the rest of the league as an offensive team that can put up yards and, be a top 10, top 15 team in points.
Courtney, we appreciate you a great deal. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Take care.
All right, that's our great friend Courtney Cronin. Anytime we do Minnesota, we like to talk to Courtney about it.
We do.
Very much dialed in. Real quickly here before we hit this break, the news today from the Bears organization that they purchased property in Arlington Heights certainly in a preparation for potentially moving the team out of downtown Chicago. I don't know Chicago in the way that probably many people listening are. Been there a few times, been to Bears games at Soldier Field. Beyond that, I've seen the Stars series Boss that dictates how Chicago politics apparently works. So that would lead me to believe it's complicated. This is a private enterprise. It's a city, and it's a city's parks department with a national historic site mixed in. No, you can't get anything done that way. You're not going to be able to get anything done. And there's no space in Chicago for them to build a stadium, right? So this is the logical thing. And you have to understand that when you watch Hard Knocks, we'll go to New England. You go to New England and you see Kraft World, you go to Jerry World. That's what you want as ownership, is you want something that you can monetize. The other thing that you're trying to figure out is, and I'm thinking about this from a gambling standpoint, where eventually you'll be able to gamble from your seat. How do you do that in a 100-year-old facility?
You can't. You need to build it with that wiring and infrastructure in mind. And Soldier Field's not great. It's not. Sorry, it's not a great place to watch a game.
No, I've been there before the spaceship, and it was brutal.
Yeah, it's not.
From where the radio TV row is, you can't see the ball when they kick a field goal.
Is it under something?
You lose. Yeah, you're in the stands.
Oh,
like the overhang. If you're attempting a 40-yard field goal or when they're kicking off, you have no idea where the ball is.
Yeah.
None.
And when they do it, they should put a dome on the thing so that they can host Super Bowls and Final Fours and
that's the thing.
Everything else.
Of course, it's going to be a dome, don't you think? I mean,
it would have to be, of course.
So that would mean the NFC North, only the Packers would be playing outdoors. Everybody else in that division would be indoors. It makes the most sense to do that. I think it's going to end up being, like you said, an awesome complex. And then Florio said something that I thought was very interesting, which is that the NFL would love to have Soldier Field unoccupied to use that as a threat.
Well, they don't have Vegas and L.A. anymore.
To teams of, they're going to relocate. We'll bring a second team to Chicago.
So the reason that you'd have to do that is because you don't have L.A. and Vegas to hold over teams anymore. So where are you going to relocate? London? Salt Lake City? There's nowhere else.
Right.
The NFL's full up. Nobody in California is going to build a stadium or allow for you to. There's no corporate money in San Diego. San Francisco's got all the corporate money in the world, but my hometown, I know better than anybody. There's no real estate. The team of my youth is not in San Francisco. They're in Santa Clara. I can't imagine me and my pops would have been going to games like we did at Candlestick if they were down in Santa Clara. We're not making that drive when I'm a kid.
No.
So that's very, very different. So there's no place in California to put a team.
Listen, Montana's big sky country. We got a lot of room. Build whatever complex you want.
Do have a lot of room.
Build an airport while you're at it.
From what I've been told.
From downtown Chicago to Arlington Heights is 53 minutes.
But most people who are going to this game are not coming from downtown Chicago. I mean, there is a good portion of people who live certainly on like the Gold Coast,
Michigan Avenue,
that live downtown. But I mean, most people are living in the suburbs.
Yeah, and I mean, how's that different from Foxborough to Boston?
Yep, exactly.
Right. I mean, that's got to be similar. It's not downtown Dallas to Jerry World. That's not 10 minutes.
No.
So, yeah, this is it, man. This is where it's going. You got to go where the land is to be able to get what you want to do. And I know that I was talking about this earlier this week that Cincinnati, the Bengals are trying to get some stuff out of the city. That city's not doing anything, man. They're not giving you anything. So if you want something, you're gonna have to go build your practice facility in Kentucky,
Northern
across
Kentucky.
the river.
Yep,
that's what you do.
It's where your airport is, anyways.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. All right, you'll hear from Hoop coming up next. Before we do that, though, injuries during childbirth require experienced counsel. Call the lawyers at Elk & Elk for a clear answer as to what happened during your child's birth. Elk & Elk is a proud partner of the Cleveland Browns. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO today. Austin Hooper up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Imagine kicking back in the evenings in your very own hot tub. Now imagine actually being able to afford one. Northeast Factory Direct buys hot tubs by the truckload. You can get a 6-person hot tub with the lounger and the lights and still afford your summer activities. You think owning a hot tub would be a pain? Northeast Factory Direct hot tubs come with an exclusive hardtop cover. You don't have to worry about safety or convenience. Plus, you're going to get a lifetime warranty on that cover. And if you're looking for a way to stay active, they have these amazing swim spas. It's like a hot tub, but you can adjust the jets. It gives you a current that is gentle that you can swim into, and the best part is you can use them year-round for fitness. I encourage you to see for yourself. West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard at Euclid, or Freeway Drive in Macedonia. You can also shop them online anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. And with that, here is Z with Austin Hooper.
Very happy.
You guys are down 13 minutes.
Pro Bowl tight end Austin Hooper, and Austin coming off of that win against the Bears. Let's go back to that drive, the end of the first half, because it was a weird game. It was 3-3 at the time, but yet it felt like the Browns were dominating. So how important, what was kind of the mood going into that drive at that point in the game?
Yeah, so we got to score. I mean, we got to score. It was 3-3, like you said. I mean, going into halftime, knowing that I believe they got the ball coming out of the second half. So, I mean, it was our opportunity where we got to strike here. And, we just tried to execute the best of our abilities, and Bake gave me a great ball to finish that drive.
And you did finish that drive with your first touchdown this season. So far, you've been targeted 11 times, 10 catches. That's 91%, 86 yards, a touchdown. Baker's quarterback rating when targeting you this year, 129.5. So it feels like a good idea to throw you the football, Mr. Hooper. And let's talk about that play in the red zone. Was that something that maybe you guys had put in last week with all the Tampa 2 and the cover 2 you were getting in Houston?
Yeah, it was something that was definitely up there against Tampa. Like you mentioned, big 2-high team. We just didn't end up getting around to it for whatever reasons. Had a bunch of other stuff come up. But yeah, so we carried that play over into our game plan for this past weekend. And, depending on the safety rotation, I read it differently. And Bake did a great job of giving me a little reminder of, hey, be prepared for 2-high here. So I run that route very differently depending on the safety's leverage. So they gave me a good little friendly reminder. I saw the leverage and made the move on linebacker and split safeties, and Bake threw it to the perfect spot. So that's how we do it.
So pre-snap, because the safety that was on your side of the formation, he was down initially. Then as you saw him drop out, you knew, and then you checked the other one, you knew, okay, there's going to be that hole right in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, the front side safety can do whatever he wants. If I look at the backside safety and he's hanging out by the numbers, like whether it's 1-high or 2-high, if the backside safety's all the way on the other side of the field, middle of the field's still open. So however it went, like he could do whatever he wanted over there. Saw that safety so far wide and saw the linebacker playing kind of like a 2-high technique. So just read it, trusted what I saw, and just let Bake put the ball where need be and react off that.
He did, and then he went soaring through the air very elegantly to secure that touchdown catch. What's kind of the emotion? You put in so much work, and I know in this league, not everybody gets to watch every game. So one of the things they'll look at, obviously, is the box score. When they see a guy gets a touchdown, they know he made an important play for his team. What was kind of the feeling once you secured that one?
It felt good. I mean, it was our first of the season as the tight end room, so it felt good. Just get that one down, and I mean, with all the work we have to do in the run game, it's nice to get some opportunities in the pass game too. So I mean, it's beautiful when you got a offense that runs the ball so much that linebackers and safeties have to respect you in the run game as well, and it really helps your chances to go out there and run some routes, because they got to play you as a complete tight end. So I mean, I'm happy where things going. We just got to keep it rolling.
Do you love when you guys get into that 13 personnel?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, you got everyone out there. All three of us can play all spots. So, I mean, depending on the personnel package where we want guys at different spots, the second and the third, I mean, there are 3 different spots out there. So, I mean, really, we can just line up at any one and we can go for it. So, I mean, it's awesome having, the whole tight end room out there getting after people. It's fun.
It seems like you guys take a lot of pride. You mentioned the blocking earlier in that, and you always stand out. Harrison's out there flexing after a lot of big runs. Chief was yucking it up with some of the defensive linemen of the Bears. But is that something that you guys have to embrace, kind of, because it is going to be a lot of what you're asked to do?
Yeah, I mean, you just hit it. I mean, that's the bread and butter of our offense. I mean, it's no secret that our philosophy around here is to, run the ball on people, control the clock, give our defense some breathers, and then, was time to throw the ball, have an efficient quarterback like Baker get the ball to our playmakers. I mean, you've been watching this offense. It's no secret, but I mean, it all starts with the run game. So I mean, it's something we all have to embrace as a tight end room, and something I've personally learned to embrace a lot more. I mean, come from a place where I played 7-on-7 all the time, where I didn't think I had a good game unless I had 100 yards receiving. I just switched that mentality where it's like, all right, if we have 200 yards rushing, I had a good day. If I dominated in the run game, I had a good day. I put people on their butt, I had a good day. So, I mean, it's just something we all embrace here as a tight end room. And if we go in our outside zone scheme, mixing with some gap scheme, if we go, our offense has a good chance of going in the run game. So we take a huge amount of ownership in that.
You just hit something that I think is really impressive about you, because from where you came, you're basically playing slot receiver. And it was, I'm running routes and they're going to throw me the ball a lot.
10 times again. Yeah.
And now we just said you have 11 targets through 3. Now your targets, they feel critical. 3rd downs, 4th downs, red zone. So that tells you the value, but it is a different mindset. I think to embrace it kind of shows not only for you individually, just the incredible buy-in, but it's that team mentality that you're all getting into, because it would be very easy, I think, to be somebody who's used to catching 75 balls a year to be like, this sucks. And yet you're bought into it and finding other ways to measure your success.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at first it was difficult for sure. Because I mean, I thought I was going to keep doing the same thing I was doing. And then, over time I just realized, you know what, hey, if we can dominate in the run game, we can win games, and we can win games and we can get to ultimately where we want to go. So, I mean, it's just a mental shift. Like you mentioned, I had to go through. I mean, David, Harrison, all of us, and it's something we embrace now where we look forward to it. Before I used to hear some play calls and be like, here we go. And now it's like, all right, let's go. Like, let's get after people. So it's kind of like switch from not I have to, but I get to. So I feel like that has really helped me out a lot.
Yeah, and I'm sure it helps knowing that when they're handing the ball off to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, it's not like we're running it for the sake of running it. We've got some pretty elite dudes back there who just go out there and get things done.
Yeah, no doubt. They make it very easy for the guys up front to buy in. So, I mean, the way that they run, I mean, you gotta love it. I mean, even if it's not blocked up perfectly, like you saw last week, Kareem. I mean, when it turns into a 9-10 man box football, I mean, we don't have enough guys to block everyone. So you see that play where the safety shoots in the backfield scot-free, and Kareem just shakes them off and rips one down the sideline. It's like, and Nick just week in and week out, seeing what Nick does. So I mean, it's really good for our offense and all of our blockers to see, like, hey, like, you put everything into it. Our runners can give you that and then some. So it's awesome to have guys like that.
You're never afraid to make a catch in traffic. You've done it many, many times. I mentioned 3rd downs, 4th downs, guys hanging all over you. Kind of when you see that mentality that Kareem has, that's kind of the running back equivalent of that. I've never seen a guy who at the end of every run is typically in the air with all 4 limbs in different directions.
It's incredible. He has no regard for his health whatsoever. I mean, he's just like kamikaze with the ball every time in his hand. It's so much fun to watch, but sometimes I'm just like, oh. And then he pops up like, oh, all right, awesome. He gets up, and they're like, all right, he's good. But yeah, watching him run is super entertaining. Nick is like, it's like poetry in motion, smooth, and then Kareem's just, his hair's going everywhere. He's hitting people, getting up, getting in their face. So it's a really good yin and yang we have in the backfield, and it's fun. You only have to pick your head up to know who's in the huddle, because if you don't hear anybody, it's Nick, and if Kareem's in the huddle, you will know he's in the huddle. So we have 2 great personalities that complement each other in different ways.
Could not be more different. And, you look at their touchdown runs this year, you think about week 1 in Kansas City, Nick runs untouched. You think about week 2, Nick runs another one on a perfect execution of wide zone, untouched in the end zone. Kareem's are usually he's setting somebody up to run them into the end zone himself, or just doing something wild. And you're right. It's the yin and that yang.
Yeah. Kareem's definitely had a lot more dirty runs that he's made into something. So, I mean, it's both those runners are special, and it really helps us out a lot.
When you guys are on the sideline, and, for you, this is like your first 2 games. Obviously, you're on the other side of it in 2018 with the Falcons at a full First Energy Stadium. But to be there now with this crowd, what has that experience been like for you?
Oh, it's been awesome. I mean, it's been awesome. And for me to see it, essentially for my first time, at least wearing this jersey, it's been awesome. And I remember once I scored, just the energy that happened in that stadium. Because as you remember, it was a good fight back and forth there. It was 3-3,
Yeah.
like we're moving, and then we get that score. Big throws me that ball, and you see that energy go crazy. And that's why I really got to hear it for the first time, everyone going nuts. So I was like, all right, this is different. This is awesome. So I mean, that was my first experience with it. Fans were awesome, and we just got to keep it rolling.
When you're on the side and you see the defense doing what it did in a game like that, are you guys just like, thank God we're not blocking them? What's the talk on the sideline when 9 sacks, one net passing yard?
Yeah, I was like, all right, we everything we saw in training camp has been confirmed. So it was nice to know that you weren't garbage. Just these guys are really good. Like, you get beat by Clowney and Miles, you weren't like, you suck. It's like, oh, all right. These guys are actually really, really good. All right, you can feel better about yourself now that you get worked in training camp. But all right, it's happening to other people now, so it feels good. I mean, our defense plays like that. We have a chance to do something special if those guys can do what they did last Sunday. I mean, it was so much fun to watch. I mean, I think the quarterback had less than 1 second to make a decision. Like, as soon as you catch the ball, have people on you, that's ridiculous. So credit to those guys. That was one of the greatest performances I've seen.
Yeah, the Browns' 75th anniversary this year. Those are the fewest total yards this franchise has ever allowed in 75 years. Fewest net passing yards, obviously, ever allowed in 75 years. So, yeah, fairly historic. I want to ask you something real quick about the camaraderie, because you mentioned your touchdown. Everybody swarms to you off of the sidelines, offense, defense, everybody. You were on, obviously, a great team with the Atlanta Falcons. Went to the Super Bowl, had an opportunity, obviously, to win that Super Bowl. How do you compare? Maybe is that a hallmark of good teams? Is this different than that? How do you kind of compare?
Yeah, I mean, every team's definitely different, right? But I mean, definitely a component of every good team I've been on is that camaraderie, and it's not something that shows up on the stat sheet. It's not something that's necessarily tangible, but you can feel it. I mean, it just doesn't matter, offense, defense, special teams. Anyone makes a play, you got all the boys coming up, showing love. All the boys excited, juiced up, and ready to get going on their respective, drives. So, I mean, it's like I said, it's nothing that shows up on the stat sheet, but it is something real within team sports, and it's something that I think we're, started to be creative. We just got to just keep this thing going and see where it can go. But definitely pleased with, the energy from the guys over these first 3 weeks.
All right, now leave you on this one because, First Energy Stadium, we're hearing Miles Garrett, we hear Chubb, but I know you hear it. Whoo. Do you love that? Does that give you some juice, man?
Yeah. I mean, it's always awesome. You make a play, you hear it. It feels funny because when it started in Atlanta at first, I thought they were booing me, and then I learned for a second, like, oh, they're saying my name. So, yeah, I remember one of the fans like, no, we're not booing you. It's like, I figured it out by year 6, guys. Thanks. Appreciate the love. Yeah, definitely something you can hear when all those people are going crazy, but
30.
Awesome. Again, just the energy within that stadium was something I haven't experienced wearing a Browns jersey, obviously with last year being last year. So it was a great environment. Definitely look forward to being back there in front of the fans again.
All right, Hoop, we appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for stopping by. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and really, thanks for sharing kind of that mindset. And I think that speaks to why this team has a chance to be what we all hope it can be.
Yep, appreciate it, Nate.
You're up.
At what age do you think he became known primarily as Hoop?
It sounds like late, because at first when they chanted Hoop for him down in Atlanta, he was not aware. He thought that they were booing him. So I think that's impossible. I mean, I know, but I coach these kids. If he grew up with me, he would have been Hoop right away.
Of course,
he'd
been Hoop his whole life.
You're Hoop.
Of course, every kid that I coach, I give a nickname immediately.
Yeah,
and why wouldn't you want to be Hoop? It's fantastic.
It's a great nickname.
I would think at age 7, the buddies in the neighborhood are like, "Hey, Hoop," right?
I would think so. I would be, certainly. In Montana, we would have called him Hoop right away.
Of course you would have.
If we'd have had him taking him,
taking him out on the farm.
Right out on the farm, but a Hoop literally out there on the grass for him.
Could have done it.
I'll tell you, that interview I really enjoyed, and the candor from him. He said, when I signed my contract here, I thought I was going to do the same stuff, line up in the slot, catch 70 balls, not do a whole lot of blocking. He said at first it was hard for him, but now he has changed how he feels a game is successful. It used to be based around his catches, his yards, and now it's based on everything he's doing to help the team win. And I think that mindset for a guy who easily could be like,
what am I doing?
I didn't
was
come
on
here
the
for
brochure.
this.
Yeah.
To have that buy-in from him, I think seeing Austin Hooper had to have played a big role in David Njoku's development as well.
It's a great point out of you.
And I think that mindset, again, as I said at the end, is why this team can be special. You have people who are putting the we in front of the me. And Austin Hooper, a guy came here as a 2-time Pro Bowler, back-to-back seasons, one of the preeminent receiving tight ends in the NFL. And
was he there with Kyle?
He was.
He was, yeah.
Yes. But that was earlier in his career before Kyle left. I think it was his rookie season, I want to say, is when they went to the Super Bowl.
Okay, yeah. Because obviously the offenses are similar, so I was curious if one of his big statistical accumulations had under Kyle. It did not.
No. But he's a guy that is fully bought in, and I love Hoop. When you need a great catch, yeah, he would have to be.
Have to be a great hang.
Definitely a little, I think, dry wit, a little sarcasm.
Perfect.
He'll get you. But when you need a catch, when Baker needs a play, I think he prefers to throw the ball to Austin Hooper.
I'll tell you this: when Uncle Beau needs a play playing Madden, I throw to 81.
Yeah,
he catches
and he catches
everything.
He sure does.
There's not a single one that doesn't get caught.
No,
it was a good job out of you, and good interview. And he's I'm glad he's here. Certainly. Beau Bishop here for Raising Cane's. Raising Cane's presents the other rules of football. Rule 1, serving cooked order chicken finger meals always earns you extra points. And Rule 2, there's no penalty for excessive cane sauce dipping. Raising Cane's is ready to tackle all your chicken finger game day needs. When it comes to winning on game day, Cane's rules, one love, and a proud sponsor of Ohio State Athletics. Go Bucks. Still so much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Be sure to catch the Browns preview show tonight at 7 on the University Hospital's Cleveland Browns Radio Network. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and the voice of the Browns, the great Jim Donovan, join Ken and Gerard on the show tonight. You can listen to that on the University Hospital's Cleveland Browns Radio Network. It's so cool doing the victory lap on Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the way he played, isn't it?
It's so fun.
So many Notre Dame people have come up to me. They were all jacked up when he was drafted here and now validated it. Bootsy, of course, loves the Notre Dame. Great Catholic boy as he is. Always follows the all of the tenets of the Catholic religion in his normal life. And his so I was thinking to myself, like, could you even get him a jersey with that? How would that fit on the back of a little jersey?
I don't know. Just put JOK.
That's what I was thinking. I was just putting JOK.
Just customize and put JOK on it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That'd be the way to do it.
You know what's amazing to me is that we were in the pre-draft process. When we talked about victory lap, we were Greg Newsome's who we were kind of locked in on corner. We were locked in on that. Dane Brugler had called Greg Newsome to the Browns, I think, for
1 minute,
ages and ages.
Yeah.
And then we're always like, well, what if that isn't possible? JOK would be great. He's not going to be there. They're
no,
both Cleveland
elite traits.
Browns.
All right, so if not corner, elite traits.
Elite traits. JOK. Guess what? Both Browns. No, even Depot didn't have a scenario for that.
It's unbelievable. It really is. I'm
Incredible.
glad he is. I'm glad he is. Very, very cool. Very cool. Going to continue to have a good week here on the program. We'll tell you that the next level is coming up next. It is gorgeous outside. If you are in Ohio, go out and enjoy it a little bit. This